The power dynamics at play within any context influence the very words that you say and what you don't. Sometimes power relationships are clear in the words you use. For example, honorifics in Korean and Japanese in terms of address, like "Hello, Mr. Gonzalez," instead of "Hey, Arturo." Other times, power is more subtle and not reflected in language, but still there. For example, in some workplaces, it would be inappropriate to challenge one's boss. But in other workplaces, that challenge would be appropriate or maybe even encouraged. The role of power can be cultural or by language, but it's also situational and based on the local context. That means, as a language learner, you have to figure out how to analyze how power impacts the context in which you are communicating and make choices accordingly. In some cases, it might mean opting out or not saying anything when you are used to it. It would be rare, for example, to challenge a class an advisor suggested in most varieties of Chinese. But in most varieties of English, suggesting an alternative would be appropriate. One way to figure out the impact of power on communication is to pay attention to what is said and what isn't. Another way to analyze the degree to which power impacts communication is to observe the directness of language choice. For example, in contexts where power is most salient, suggestions from the person in power are likely to be given as commands. However, if power is relatively less influential, suggestions from the person in power are likely to be mitigated or softened with phrases like, "It might be a good idea if," or phrases questions like, "Could we do this instead?" No matter what, as you are learning a language, pay attention to what clues exist to help you understand how power impacts communication. Then make your own language choices accordingly.